The Crux with Paul Stone. This episode is titled, Cozy Up This Winter in Your Sheep Slanket. Cozy up in your sheep slanket. You know, it just hit me today. Something we're all talking about. We're all talking about this subject. But there's a new way to look at what this subject matter, if it was a lens, and we're looking through it, back at ourselves, back at humanity. We're looking over this long, multi-thousand-year journey of human beings. It is the most horrific viewpoint we've probably ever had back onto ourselves, especially in countries where, you know, the marketing describing that nation is supposed to be that you have a voice. You know, I'm studying things, I'm watching for new information. And obviously I get, and all of you get, that AI makes things more convenient. Here's what would go into supporting its widespread utilization. Well, we need electricity, right? We're seeing all these people, politicians, business folks talking about generating more electricity. It was reported a while back last year that Bill Gates or Microsoft is buying 3 Mile Island, which is a mothballed nuclear facility in Pennsylvania. It had a bit of a catastrophic crisis back in the 70s, and it was mothballed. I actually visited it once as a kid on a school trip. Electricity, right? The source of everything matters, right? We talk about our money, we talk about our society, our families, our education system, what the vision for the youth looks like, why things are dimming. We're going to cover a lot of ground in this episode because of the brilliance of looking at ourselves, our system, our society, our social fabric, what's unique about us here in America, the diversity, et cetera, whether it's the color of your skin or your, male, female, where you came from, money, status, no money, struggling for money, have way too much of it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Education, not educated. When you look at some reports on the electrical demand that it would take, first of all, a data center will demand 1 to 5 gigawatts. 1 to 5. So let's just average that down. 3 would be a decent middle ground, obviously. Let's just water it down a little further and call it 2. There are 550 projects, AI data center projects, either in pursuit of getting approved, under construction. So let's just water that number down from 550 to 55. Let's just go with 10%. All right. And this is just in the US, right? China is just masturbating like crazy over the idea of God knows how many data centers they would be putting into production, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, Russia, right? North Korea probably like a couple. I think Saudi Arabia is really interested in it because they certainly seem interested in mind control. I don't see freedom of speech in those kingdoms, right? I don't see that that's something that's celebrated. I've been over there when I was in the military. Some weird vibes came to me, only in the way that it conflicted with what I'm used to. They're obviously used to that. The people that live there, it's all great. But to see that finding a way to proliferate itself, that mindset, and influence, interfere with how others are trying to go about their day, some outside influence back here against whatever's supposed to be considered a democracy, which it isn't today. You'll see that in a second. 55 data centers in America, down from 550. So we're not overinflating anything. We don't ever want to do that. You lose credibility quick. And 1 to 5 gigawatt demand for each data center. And we're just watering that down to 2. It takes 9,000 tons of coal to support one electrical power plant that can produce 1 gigawatt. So 18,000 tons of coal. I just want to point this out so you understand the magnitude, the freaking inhuman magnitude of what is being started up. 495,000 tons of coal a day for 55 data centers in America. 500,000 tons, not pounds, tons of coal a day. And you think, oh my gosh, so that's ridiculous. How much coal is there? Pennsylvania's full of it. I'm not, I know there's some in the Midwest. Don't quote me, but the Montana, Idaho area, I believe, but certainly in Pennsylvania. I'm not trying to guess. It really doesn't matter. What matters is, and there's other things, tentacles that we could peel off and go down and look into here. But what I'm trying to get you to see right up front is you have no voice. You literally have no voice. None. Now, the energy secretary was on the news talking about something that President Trump signed. Look, I got to believe that in his gut, President Trump, he's in his 70s. He's kind of like dating apps, AI. I mean, I used to meet girls at the bar or at work, old fashioned, right? Doing it where there's actual human interactions, breathing the same air was more, certainly a component to relationships when they first got started, and not touchscreen devices. So I just got to believe that in his guts, he's thinking AI is ridiculous. I do believe he thought crypto was ridiculous before he won the White House for a second term. And so I'm not trying to paint him in a corner. No one that goes into that office or really into, these elected officials and the offices they hold they're painted into a corner immediately. That's one of the reasons that our framers wanted that central government to be very small and you would never hear from them. That was the original design. And don't hear that as a complaint. Hear that as a freaking order of magnitude from Europeans who fought Europeans to set this country up. They did not want centralized power. They wanted it, like Uber. Uber decentralized it, disrupted the taxi industry. I love that. The documentary, I believe it's on Netflix, super pumped. It's incredible. So centralizing things is not good. AI will be the centralization of all credible thought. Surveillance state laid the framework for that with the Patriot Act and getting after these terrorists. We've all watched, Homeland and some other great shows where, necessity is the mother of all invention. How do we protect America's shores from something coming into it from the Middle East? So they're tracking cell phones. They're seeing who calls who, when, how often, how long are the calls? Is there a pattern that can be discerned from that? Is who calls who after who calls who? And then throw a blanket on the entire financial system, the entire thing, and look for any monetary movement that comes right after one of those phone calls happens. So it's like Minority Report. I mean, go look up the Tom Cruise movie. Hopefully there's a bunch of, folks watching this in their 20s, late teens, 20s, and a little bit older, right? You may not know about Minority Report. You should check it out. It's a great movie, Tom Cruise. But it's literally the concept which we're racing toward. Patriot Act certainly gave the foothold for this to become the norm, to identify patterns before crime actually happens. So you're studying the bad actors, you're watching everybody, and AI, the machine, can understand, well, what was the pattern that came right before this crime happened? Let's throw that against society and notice if those patterns are forming. We'll send little robot cops in and surveil, the people involved, and we'll stop a crime. You don't live in a democracy if you're stopping crime. And I know that might be antithetical to what people want to hear. Like, well, geez, Paul, we have to allow crime to happen. Yes, you do if you live in a democracy, because you have to have freedom of movement. If you don't want a democracy, great, we don't have one anymore. There isn't one. This is ridiculous. What this flag represented, it's a time capsule. It represented ideals that lives were given for, wars were fought over, humanity had clamored for throughout its entire existence. It finally happened here. And yes, we had to literally move out the folks that were living here, the Indians, put them on reservations and destroy their way of life. I'm not for that. I'm here in the moment. What that flag represents, it doesn't represent that anymore. And if that pisses someone off, great, hit me up. I'm online, I'm on Twitter. Let's chat, let's argue about it. Let's talk truth. Believe me, I would have given my life for that flag. I was in the military, and I know there's many in the military today that are willing to do that too. And there's still an ideal that thing represents. the magnificence of that. I look at there's meanings for the stripes and the stars and the blue square. To me, the red represents blood. The white stripes represent truth. There's 13 of them which represent the colonies. The blue, in my opinion, represents peace. And the white stars represent 50 individual instances of truth that make up the unity of the country that the 13 colonies started, and blood was shed for truth to finally exist in government involved with the lives of people that it would govern with a light hand, not an obtrusive force. So the office, I'm not going to make this personal against President Trump, and I wouldn't do it if Kamala was there or if Biden was there, because it's the office of the President of the United States that is making these decisions, that is saying, how do I end up liked? Who do I reach for that I can feel I'm well received, that I'm doing, that it's fun, that my job is fun? I've seen the comment on Insta. Many people have said it. The number one goal in life is to love going to work and love going home. Yeah, I agree. I don't think hardly anyone can match both of those up. They might love going to work. They might love coming home. I don't think they love both. It's just too much of a struggle out there today. I wrote a book about it. It's called 1971. It's on Amazon. It literally is the seed ground, the source of everything matters. It is the seed ground for the discussions, the arguments, the hate, the blame, the scapegoating, the struggle, the anger, the anxiety that we are all experiencing as a humanity today. We all are. It's what it comes from. Talk about it some more. So the Energy Secretary today, Trump signed a bill, signed something, executive order. He was political expansion program, whatever it's called, to putting a man on the moon and the Manhattan Project. And I just thought, hey, here we go again. I don't know what it is. I do know. I just don't like pointing it out bluntly. There is a mindset that goes into government. There's a certain mindset, not good or bad, just different. So just remember that government leaders were damn sure the world was flat at one point. It was against religion to suggest that the stars and such did not orbit around the earth. They literally would kill you. It would discredit you, destroy you, take away anything you had if you suggested that the universe didn't spin around the earth. Just remember, smoking in operating rooms, right? Prohibition, Obamacare. I mean, thinking that slavery was okay, and it's still practiced today. Genocide for exterminating people for having a different belief than yours. Mutilating a woman's clitoris at 13 years old in part of the planet still does that today. It's just beyond ridiculous. Stoning a prostitute in the town square when she had clients. Why not stone them? It's the same as a stupid war on drugs. Okay, let's go after Maduro. It's kind of ridiculous what he did. He destroyed the Venezuelan economy doing what he did. But Americans are ordering the drugs. We're ordering. Why? Why was there a war on drugs started up? I know Nixon started talking about it. That was the hippies, people protesting the war. I guess pot was getting a little more prevalent. There's always been heroin and the opioid sourced drugs. And people checked out and they signed their life away. It wasn't mainstream. Started back in Asia. Here's a stat. For all the years that we spent in Afghanistan, Afghanistan at one point produced 95% of the heroin to the world. And we were there for over 20 years. And that was never interrupted. Recently, I've read that the industry has shifted a great deal to Macau. You look at this stuff, these government-led things. My point is nothing good has ever, no massive program led by, supported by, other than the military, CIA, they're wildly successful. But government social type programs, not even socialism, just anything that comes a blanket on society has never worked well. And I don't care what century in government you're talking about, because there's a certain mindset that goes. The Energy Secretary today likened the creation, the mad, rabid adoption of AI, which will literally replace your jobs. Start looking for those pink slips in February. Ask yourself, when would it be the best time for companies to lay off massive amounts of its workforce? Right before the holidays? In the summer? No. Right after the holidays. Give them a year. Give them a full year. right after the holidays, start making noise about it in January. Let the pink slips fly in February. If that's what they're called. Pink slip, that's for a car. Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. We don't need you anymore. Thank you for being here. Letters where they're letting people go. I mean, Amazon, we've already read. They can automate over 600,000 jobs with AI. Anything that is routine. Customer service reps, easy pickings. Bank tellers, fast food restaurants. The robotics will come later. But anything that you deal with over a phone, that could be replaced in a heartbeat. And aren't the companies supposed to cut costs, grow revenue? That increases profit. That's the ecosystem they are. Stop thinking they're like you. And stop thinking like saying to yourself, well, how could everyone do this? Not everyone's doing it. Every company's doing it individually. They're all competing against other companies for the same precious revenue. So they're doing it competitively, not as a group. We look at them from the outside and go, how could they do this as a group? Your government let 74,000 manufacturing firms close their doors since 1990, gave China favored trade nation status. You know what that was disguised for? No tariffs on goods coming in from China. Why would American companies want their own goods tariffed coming back into the country for sale when they used to be made here? And now those companies, like, I'm not going to pick on anyone in particular, but all the big box stores and everything in there is literally made in China. You are walking into Shanghai when you walk into a big box store today. It is horrific. So to liken the creation, mad user adoption, forced down your throat, whatever, you don't have a say in the matter, AI, to a man on the moon? Let's just unpack this for a second. Man on the moon was an accomplishment of humanity fighting a force it has never been able to beat, gravity. For all of mankind, looking up at the stars at night, you're thinking, could we ever go outside of our own realm? Could we get to the moon? Could we get to the moon? No, you can't get to the moon. And one day we did. And that was beautiful. A president, the office of the President of the United States, daring its personal humanity to accomplish the goal by the end of that decade. President Kennedy. And it happened. I know there's some doubters. Oh, it was made up. They shot it. I remember that Red Hot Chili Peppers lyric. Space is the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. They put a man on the moon. They absolutely put a man on the moon. You want to keep doubting that? Go ahead. So that's an accomplishment fighting a natural force that is still always going to win. We get to beat it temporarily. And now, obviously, rocket technology, there's, God knows what, 50,000, 10, whatever, 1,000 satellites or space machines floating in our orbit today. So that's a bit sickening. But we've obviously temporarily win that battle all the time now. So then he compared it to the Manhattan Project. Great. Finding a way to control the fission of an atom, the splitting of an atom. Now, nuclear reactors are cool because they create pollution-free electricity. But in our country, I'm guessing it was the energy lobbyists for the carbon fuels industry that squelched out and pointed at 3 Mile Island accident. You're going to set the country on fire, burn a hole all the way through the center of the earth with those damn things, whatever. There's a reason there's not much rail in California. Certainly in LA, I don't know if this is true, but I studied it a little bit. I always wondered, because there's one highway. I mean, there's a couple, but there should be 10. The 405, the 110, north-south highways, they're always jammed up. The reason there isn't much rail is Goodyear supposedly owned tons of land across LA County, and I believe it was even the 405 corridor. So obviously they're not down with you setting up rail because they want to sell tires. And they think, hey, the weather's good here. People are going to move here. We're going to sell lots of tires. There's I don't remember the stat, but there are more cars on the Pacific coast of California per capita than, way more than people that live there. So get back to the point. Comparing AI, which is literally a system that thinks for us, to 2 bombs that dropped on Japan. He literally claimed it saved lives. It ended the war early. Oh my God. Okay. All right. So for a brief period of time, Hundreds of thousands of lives were saved. But now that technology just sits mothballed in silos and, bunkers all around the world. No one's going to use it because if anyone does, someone else uses it, everyone uses it, boom, it's over. You've turned the planet into a barbecue. AI is ongoing. That's the main point. So man on the moon, great. We beat gravity. The Manhattan Project, we ended a war. It's over. Like the purpose of nuclear bombs is over. Everyone has them. No one's going to use them. The cowardice of us not stepping in to literally, in Europe, to protect their neighbor, you can't do that on this planet. We're not going to allow you to bully one of our buddies. I mean, it was the cowardice of Germany that kept, during the Bush administration, I believe it was in his first term, they wanted Ukraine in NATO. And Germany's fear was, we get all of our energy from Russia. If we piss them off, they'll cut off our supply of energy. We can't have Ukraine in NATO. That's how it works, folks. That's government leaders. That's government decision making. Did they ever take any of our opinions into account? No. You want the greatest use for blockchain at the moment? Voting. Constantly. All the time. Power back to the people. We sent these assholes to go represent us and do a job for us. We either didn't want to leave our hometown, don't want to go stand at a podium and volunteer for the job, or have a mic and a camera in our face, or get our background skewered over the mistakes we've made. We've all made them. No one who wants to run that stupid, mindless gauntlet to have that office and then do it again every 4 or 6 years. Most of us don't. But they still volunteered to do a job for us that they aren't doing. They're literally doing jobs we don't get a say in. So here's what I mean by the sheep SLANKET. And for the youngsters, and I talked to one earlier before logging on here and recording this, she didn't know what a SLANKET was, and she's 34. I think the ads generally come on, towards the end of the year, this time of the year. It's a blanket that's got some area for arms and legs, and you zip it up. So it's kind of like a blanket with a zipper. But you can still futz with the remote and hold a bowl of popcorn and yada, yada. The SLANKET. And the reason it's a sheep is because that's what we've all become. Now, here's a cool point, right? You look at Mamdani, you look at Trump, revolts. Look at Obama, a revolt. You look at Bush, a revolt. The nation revolted against Clinton, right? And Obama was a revolt against, it was like the first time the religious right got mixed up in politics. This war in Iraq was a religious crusade again. Was it? Anyway, when you look at what's been winning elections on a grand scale, it's revolt. Thomas Jefferson says we get the government we deserve. Let's look back at that. That means we're looking for revolt. That's what we're electing, which means we're in one without bullets flying. But is that the precursor to what we're going to be living in soon? I'm telling you it will be. And I'm not the brightest bulb. I'm not the sharpest tool in the box. I'm just some dumb guy. But I've learned to understand, because I'm not smart, I've learned to try and understand the world around me. I have to go to the source of everything. The source, where does it come from? We're all up here talking, all of you, you're all talking about symptoms. You watch it on the TV, symptoms, arguing about symptoms. Now we got the seditious six. And there's just so many things. By the way, I hope all of you had a nice Thanksgiving. I really do. And I want you, and hopefully your family survived, and hopefully the politics conversations, abated and didn't disrupt, I hope this is a great holiday season. I want you to remember this one. And like Colin Cowherd, my favorite sports analyst, I do have the right to change my opinion should new, facts and figures come to bear on my thoughts that I have today. But I literally think this will be the last Thanksgiving and the last holiday season. However you enjoy this one, you won't enjoy them in the future like you do this one. And you might have enjoyed them more when you were a kid. You may have enjoyed them more 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. But this will be the last one. That's my belief. When the layoffs start in February and March, AI is robust enough now to replace millions and millions and millions of jobs. And the data centers aren't even built yet. I mean, there's some. Millions of jobs. And I believe that starts happening. You got to understand, they are building the billionaire class, the tech geeks, governments. The governments are always, again, elected officials are always painted in a corner. They're like, well, if we don't do it, China and Russia will get AI. They'll be more supreme than we are. Quantum computing, you throw that in the mix over the next few years, and there isn't a password protected anything that will, you won't even need passwords anymore. You'll have no privacy. Quantum computing would be like a bulldozer running through a hen house. It wouldn't even know it hit something. It literally wouldn't even know there was something it just ran over. It is beyond, quantum computing, beyond powerful. And, the race for all this stuff is completely natural. I've been reading a book, Thoughts. It compares thoughts versus thinking. So thoughts are natural. Now, some of us have, and I occasionally have some whack thoughts where I'm like, you shouldn't think like that. But that's the thinking part. See, the thinking part is the judgment. The thinking part is what puts me in anxiety and fear, tells me I'm not good enough, tells me no one likes me. I already know that's true. Kidding. A few people like me. My dog likes me. He's always laying at my feet during these recordings. I love that. Dexter, white Frenchie with a brown stripe. The thinking, the judgment on the thought is what makes us all miserable. So when we're developing a machine that will do the thinking for us, that's not going to be good. It's not going to be good because you have to eat. You have to eat. And many of you are eating a little too often, but 3 times a day, a couple snacks. You have to drink. A lot of the country drinks. Now, I gave that up a long time ago. I kind of packed a lifetime worth of drinking into like 14 years. So that right for me is over. But when you have to buy stuff is the point. Now, all of us, and we've all seen the maps on Insta, all the red in the country and the little blue dots, right? Because everyone's left the countryside as Nixon started letting the money being printed. And here we are 50 years later. People couldn't find what they needed in the countryside, so they moved into the cities. You have the luxury of living in a city because people will bring the groceries to you. They bring the groceries to you. When that all breaks down, and it's ridiculous. I had a neighbor. He's a big bank guy, big high, yuckety muck at the bank, at a big national bank. And he's just punch drunk on the elixir of the greatest humanitarian relief program that has ever been undertaken and is sure to be successful. There'll be some bumps in the road. But and Elon Musk said it recently, money won't be irrelevant in the future. And I understand Gene Roddenberry, creator of Star Trek, probably one of the greatest visionaries of all. The thing about that, though, is in Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future, when Captain Kirk would beam down to a planet, as long as it wasn't one of those warring, crazy planets, what'd you have? You had people growing their own food, incredible tech, and there weren't any neighborhoods. You had a lot less people. A lot less people. There's 8 billion people on the planet today. And some are wondering if they even are counting that accurately. Maybe there's more. Population of the planet was 3.7 billion people in 1970. 54 years, it's more than double. That's insane. Now, what's cool is look at a 10,000 year population chart for 10,000 years. It looks like an L laying on its back. And when they found petroleum, just goes straight up. You couple that with endless amounts of government money, all the governments around the world, it's insane. So this thing will flame out. And when you're looking for that revolt, AI is going to bring it to you. Because eventually, and there's no way, this is the chasm that the business world, the inventors, and governments will never be able to bridge. Again, the government once thought prohibition was a good idea. And that is, how do you supply people with income, though their jobs have been replaced by AI, so they can eat? Now, the government has a fallback program and just print the money and give it to you. We learned that during COVID. But that can't go on forever. I don't even know if that could go on much, because the commoditized world, commodities, like, commodity, this is iron, this is a cannonball. It's how the country found its freedom. The death of money with gold dribbled over the top of it. The thinking, dead thinking of money, $100 bills. He is not alive today. There is no way that you can engineer. This is like building a ship while you're at sea. All you have is a hull, and you have to build this thing, welders and the whole thing, engines, sails, whatever. kitchens, food, like all that stuff, AI and the replacement of known jobs for jobs no one knows about in the future. They're not hiring software engineers for 2 years. So don't tell me there's going to be a tech boom. Tech companies are fine. I'm talking to people that are working on a project. I'm working on a project. I'm part of one. They said it would take 2 years to program this deliverable. They did it in 3 days using AI. We've all seen, perhaps not all of us, there's a 90-minute Netflix documentary where they were using AI to come up with therapies and vaccines, et cetera. There was I believe it was a positive 1 or 0 or 1, I'm sorry, but you'll get the point here in a second. The setting was 1, which meant come up with positive stuff. Come up with stuff that solves problems. But before they left for the day, they switched it to the opposite. So they switched it to 0. If it was 1, they switched it to 0, 0, they switched it to 1, which then told the system to come up with negative therapies, viruses. It came in the morning, there was like 100 horrifically destructive viruses they never even considered before. Horrific. You're talking about putting this stuff in fighter planes. I mean, you're telling me that man is somewhere sitting there with a kill button somewhere to just turn all this off if it gets nasty? I don't know if this one's true or not. Facebook, Meta, created 2 AI beings, hooked them up. Within 10 minutes, they were speaking a language humans didn't understand. They made up their own language. They unplugged them. Maybe it's just some dramatic fake news crap. But this is what's possible. This is where it will lead. This is what we suck at. We suck at seeing around corners. The scary, scary, scary part about AI is it's looking down. It sees everything. It will read all of your emails, all of your texts, listen to all your phone calls. It'll monitor everything. The world is, as governments print money and make their societies angrier and angrier because they struggle and struggle and struggle, and there is zero relief, zero. There's 0 days off from this financial burden struggle. Mandami in the White House recently talking about affordability. Stop printing the money. I was starting to say earlier, all these commodities, right? They all see the wholesome money that should be in the system. They see all that. And they also see all the artificial money that shouldn't be there. And that's why the costs go up. That's why the costs go up. They're just wanting to fetch their due. That's all there is. The price technically doesn't change for a commodity. It's the currency that is dwindling in its intrinsic value. Like me, once you hit the age of 40, you're a male, testosterone is half of what it was when you were 18. Now, I take supplement because I don't want to live that way. But at 55, I'm dying. I'm aging out. Some of you might be rooting for that to happen faster. But the intrinsic value of me when I was peaking at 18, 19, 20-something years old is, well, a lot of that's gone. Our currency is 97% gone. The intrinsic value, the wholesomeness in it. So as governments get bills, they don't have money to pay, and they print the money, it causes all your costs to go up, causes you to not be able to pay yours. That struggle is angering humanity. It is the #1 export of our government. It is global inflation. It is why people will walk 1,200 miles to get here, because their economies are destroyed by the cost increases. All commodities, copper, wheat, coffee, wheat, sugar, everything, pork bellies, orange juice, all set in the dollar. You print the dollar, costs go up. And then all the other countries struggle. So then if their government has the ability, they print, which causes their own neighborhoods' costs to go up. It causes the joblessness. It causes all the problems. It causes the need for AI to make the world run more efficiently, because governments look at people, their constituents, as the actual source of their troubles. And they thought originally, we just need more money. We just don't have enough money. The book I wrote, 1971, the original title was going to be There's Never Enough Money. And I was going to do a simple comparison. On the gold standard, and for all the thousands of years that humans did commerce with gold involved, the cost of living increases, went up gradually, and your earnings went up greatly. 1971, that ended. Now the cost of living goes up dramatically, and wages grow modestly. So you're drowning. You suffer through 30 years of that or so. Mom is forced into the workplace. Kids are raising themselves, raised in daycare, raised by strangers. Kids are like objects. They look up at parents going, what am I supposed to be? Well, my parents are always stressed out, always distracted, always they don't have time for me. So I'm not going to have time for them. And I'm never going to have what they have. A lot of times the grandparents have more than the parents because they got to hold on to their house. And as the government printed money, their home values went up. So they started throwing equity into the stock market, mutual funds, investing in stuff. And they've got all kinds of money at the moment. And the kids these days are looking, oh, I'm never going to have that. I'm not going to get married, have 2 or 3 kids, take some vacations during the year. I'm not going to have a lake cabin. I don't see myself buying a bass boat. I don't see myself checking out the pyramids in Egypt or going on an African safari. I see myself going to the Jersey Shore. I see myself maybe camping 100 miles from here. I don't see myself raising other humans that can depend on me when the poor youngster today can't depend on themselves. And that causes confusion. People are looking for answers. AI, necessity being the mother of all invention, is the invention that then says the governments are all going crazy for. This is the system that'll finally streamline out all the inefficiencies from the human existence. This is the ultimate, except you will unemploy your workforce and we have to eat. And so that revolt is absolutely in our near future, maybe in the next couple of years. The minute people in the cities aren't getting their food delivered to them anymore because the diesel truck drivers aren't willing to do it for whatever reason and it's coming, or they're replaced by robotic trucks, and they'll have to move to where the food comes from. And it is as simple as that. It's as simple as that. You have to recognize that you and I have no voice. Stop thinking these elections mean anything. Yes, you could say, oh my God, if Kamala had won, okay, so it would hasten our race to the bottom. But they were against AI. And I think we need to be against AI. This is an earthling planet. This isn't tech-led. It was nice to have some technologically provided luxuries and conveniences. But look at what it's become. And all of you being sucked into writing better emails and managing your day with some AI solution, nice. That's what always comes first. That's what always comes first. You know, I heard this, and I'll bring it up here. Great, great, great depiction of the difference between heaven and hell. So this person died, lived kind of a middle of the road life, did some bad, did some good. So he was offered a choice. He could pick hell, he could pick heaven. So he goes down to hell first, check it out. Because, you know, he thinks he probably wants to go to heaven. Why not see the place he probably doesn't want to go first? Goes down to hell. He's like, oh, he's blown away. He's like, oh my God. Everyone's dressed in the finest clothes. They're all rolling with the greatest of wealth. And they're, you know, just sitting at this table, this endless table, looking both directions, can't see the end. And they're having a meal. Greatest food. All the greatest stuff. All your favorites, perfectly cooked. Michelin star. You know how Michelin got that name? Like, so they have always sold tires. It is the tire company. And they wanted to give reasons for people to go out and drive on their tires. So they started like checking out restaurants and make like journey, you'd have to journey to the restaurant kind of thing. And they started rating restaurants. So if you got a Michelin star, they'd be like, hey, you should go check this place out. Hop in your Oldsmobile, hop in your Buick, hop in your Cadillac, and, you know, go check out this restaurant. So it was a way to go burn rubber. So Michelin star food, the greatest in the world. But everyone there is wailing. They're in agony. They're all having to eat with these spoons that are 6 feet long. And they can't get the food into their mouth. Greatest dressed, all the money in the world, the greatest food, dressed to the nines. The bands are playing. It's incredible. And they're starving. He's like, well, this is crazy. So he jumps in the elevator, shoots up to heaven. Same scene. Little different decoration. Same scene. Everyone's loaded, money, dressed to the nines, food, endless table, both directions, can't see the end. Everyone's seated, but no one's in agony. No one's wailing, in pain. No one's starving. You imagine looking at all this great food and maybe you haven't eaten in God knows how long. The difference in heaven, because they're still eating with the same 6-foot spoons, is they were feeding each other. That's what we need. Stop attacking your neighbor. Stop attacking. Oh my God, if you caused holy hell over Thanksgiving, over politics, over some ideas. We deal with opposing ideas all the time. We root for them. That's called sports. I want it. No, I want it. No, I want it. No, I. What are you going to do to get it? What are you going to do to get it? What are you going to do to stop me? What are you going to do to stop me? Sports. It's a contest. We celebrate that stuff. But we're looking to the government as if they're the ones, the purveyors of joy and happiness. Fuck no. They are absolutely not. And just get comfortable this winter in your sheep slanket. And I'm not calling you sheep. I'm describing what the humanity around the globe has become. The reason Cuba, one of the greatest tropical pieces of real estate on the entire planet, is still communist, is there isn't enough people willing to lay down their lives today for freedom to ring for those following them. And that's where we are. We're Cuba. We are frozen in time. Time when humanity had no voice. The Magna Carta was a document signed in the year 1215. It was literally the first attempt, because of a revolt, where the commoners got some say in life. The nobility literally believed, and of course they did, that they were born of a certain brand where they were capable of managing money and fortune and businesses and all that stuff. And commoners were born into their position in life, were not mentally equipped to manage those things, which was their way of keeping it for themselves. Prima nocte. We've all seen Braveheart, right? What started that revolt? The King of England said, if we can't get rid of the Scots, he goes, he says, the problem with Scotland is it's full of Scots. If we can't root them out, we'll breed them out. So when you got married, your wife had to go sleep with the noble on your wedding night. And if he could impregnate her, then they wouldn't be giving birth to Scots anymore. They'd be giving birth to the British, because women didn't have any rights back then. It would be his bastard, I guess. God knows what that would lead to. I don't think it lasted too long, but that's Braveheart, right? So revolt. And I'm not calling for violence. I'm saying you need to live where your feet are and recognize that before all these technological luxuries and conveniences, 100 years ago, 80% of our economy came from making stuff, growing stuff, making stuff, harvesting stuff, producing stuff, inventing stuff with our hands, with our bodies, with our minds and our bodies. The distance between the head and the heart was an immediate connection, an instant connection. Today, it's a distant one. We need to be feeding each other, not the government and its handouts. I don't presume to think that AI can be stopped. But what I do presume to think is that once you are aware of a truth, and I'm not saying I'm an oracle of anything great, but if anything I'm saying is truth, not that I'm saying it, but that it's coming through me, and you can't unsee that. Once you're aware of something, you can't become unaware of it. And so how do you, in your 80 years that you've purchased, you're the birth creation that won in the love canal, in the womb. Like, you won. You're already victorious. And you've purchased maybe 80 years here. You got to spend that yelling at the television over some silly politicians living in their thinking, judging yourself. You're not enough. You are absolutely more than enough. And you're you. Whatever you are, you're one of the colors that make up the rainbow. You're one of the 32 flavors at the ice cream parlor. Diversity is incredible. More strands of twine make a rope that can secure an aircraft carrier to the dock. That's what we are. We are twine. Each one of us, we come together, we make a rope, a bond that is unbreakable. Recognize that the wolf that wins, the fight that's inside of us, is the one we feed. Don't feed the one that argues anymore. You're going to lose sight of your shot here. There's going to be computer management systems which you cannot compete with. Once you're sucked in, you'll already have had to make a move to wake up the Christopher Columbus, the Lewis and Clark that lives inside of you. the George Washington, the Harriet Tubman, the Martin Luther King, the Nelson Mandela that lives inside of each one of us. It doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. It matters that you don't judge your thoughts, that is the creation that you were born with, that would always put you in a position in alignment with the life around you that would provide you with peace, joy, and happiness. It doesn't come in an email. It doesn't come in a check. It doesn't come from a government program. And this fight that will start taking place next year, you're going to see. Are you going to end up late? Are you going to be all comfy in your sheep slanket? Or are you going to fight back? We've been looking for a revolt. We're seeing the need for one. We're electing candidates who run on revolt. They're reflecting back to us what we want. Now it's time for us individually, not to take up arms and think we're going to stop some machine that spends $7 trillion a year. You know, at 31, a trillion seconds is 31,000 years. So the government is spending 210,000 years of money a year. You going to fight that? No. And that's not what life on the planet's all about. It's about saying no. It's about having discipline, saying no to the luxuries and the conveniences. I hope you still get to go to hospitals. I hope you still get antibiotics. I hope you get to still see doctors. There's going to be some prices we got to pay. Is this the Terminator movie? Are we looking at Cyberdyne? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I don't think AI can get me, and I am so close, and maybe I'll set the example and give up the smartphone. I don't want to be tracked anymore. I don't want to be documented. I don't want to be inventoried. I don't want my patterns and what makes me showing up in some computer database as a bunch of, 1,000 data points. But it hasn't really become super inconvenient, but it's about to. Man on the moon, that's the AI project. This is about thinking for you, for businesses. Who are the consumers? Who are the customers going to be of these businesses when they replace their workforces? There won't be. It's hand in glove. I go to work. I put out my energy from the food I ate in the morning, the sleep I got at night. I recharge my batteries. I have an effort to give, an endeavor. Someone organized a mission to produce something and advertised for openings where I could expend that energy and receive financial energy in return, which I hope to be able to save some of it for when I don't want to or can't work down the road. That's hand in glove. You break that system, you break humanity. We are always going to be analog. Always. We can certainly be replaced by something digital, and you'll have that Gene Roddenberry vision. Tons of tech, growing your own food, and no neighborhoods. I'm wishing better for you. My brothers and sisters, wherever this is being watched, I wish the greatest for you. This is just another challenge for humanity individually here on the planet where it does not say welcome to a fair planet on your birth certificate. We can overcome this. Don't think we're going to stop it. Not suggesting violence. I'm talking about individual awareness to raise up within yourself and move into a lifestyle that doesn't require a dependence on the things you depend on today. Might sound harsh. I'm not bringing this to your doorstep. Your government is.